Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the LMScast podcast. My name is Joshua Millage. I'm joined today with Chris Badgett, and today we're talking about impacting the world with your knowledge and the opportunities and things that are available to you today because of the internet and because of tools like WordPress and LMS plugins. So, Chris, tell me a little bit about niches and niche knowledge and how that can be used for monetary gain, but also just creating communities.
Well, that's great. That's a good question. And it's an interesting one because in some verticals in the economy, people are really already tuned into that. And that could be like internet marketers for a while have already known that, the opportunity is in these like micro niches of different types of offers and things like that. Mm-hmm. Book authors have also kind of known about this, especially with the advent of Amazon and the big box bookstores. We've seen a demise or a downplay in the popular bestsellers and these really niche selections. If you want a book on something, you can find it on Amazon. If you want to try to find it in person, you can go to a big box store and find this really niche down book. And a book is like a piece of educational content. One of the big differences about books and more evolved e-learning is just the value and the ability to communicate through multimedia and, assignments, lessons, and things like that. You just have more options, which increases the value of the educational content. That being said, we've all had books that changed our lives.
Right.
You can create e-learning content to change lives too. In some ways, you have a stronger tool, a bigger weapon with all the options that come with the e-learning platform, not to mention the higher value, which can command a higher price, both from like a realistic like value generation and also just in perceived value. If we look at something like a graduate degree, some MBAs, for example, are start at $50,000, and that's for education, whereas you can go to the bookstore and buy a book that tries to condense all the ideas of an MBA down into $12 or $20 and that sort of thing.
Right.
But the important part about all this is when we really niche down, and this is something that we've talked about before, the educational system can't always keep up with, or they don't have the funding or the focus to be able to really get specific in a certain niche, in a certain area, like computer science. It's becoming really hard for computer science graduates to really become employable after education because they're being taught outdated material or too broad a spectrum. There's nothing wrong with being a generalist and a Renaissance person, which is also on the rise today. Tim Ferriss had a great podcast about that, and he touches on that, on the value of becoming a Renaissance man.
Right.
Tim Ferriss also touches on the value of mastering a skill quickly. And those little micro niche skills is the perfect thing to build an LMS style e-learning platform to deliver content to and really help impact people all over the world.
Right. And I think you're totally right about that. I mean, it's never, one thing I want to add too is it's never been easier to find a niche than it has been today too. So if you have niche specific knowledge, the tools, the free tools that are available to you to go find that community are right here. And you can do that in so many different ways. I think the other thing too is the ability to change a life is never been easier too. And I know that sounds kind of like woo woo, like, oh, changing lives, and everyone says that, but it's true. I mean, and you've worked with people, I mean, you've worked with some of the craziest people on the planet, Chris. Ladies who in Africa are teaching people how to quilt, all the way through to gardening, all the way through, and I think what's interesting is I know that lives have been touched in those different materials, and it's just, there's things that happen, even the other podcasts I do, Infusioncast, I've gotten emails about, hey, like, that one interview you did, you mentioned this, and that really helped me think through some of the things I'm dealing with in fear. Well, that podcast is very specific to Infusionsoft and sharing information, but that was just the entry point in which something else that I said helped change someone. So I think there is a huge opportunity here to connect with people, learn about their hopes, dreams, and fears, and then provide information as well as content about the things that you're teaching to help just shift the way that they think. And yeah, I mean, do you have any stories about that? I'm just curious. I'm like willing to bet that you do.
Yeah, I've had people. For example, if you look at my free course on how to build a WordPress website, I've got about 50 testimonials from people who were just blown away by the content, and just now they have a skill. Not only, I guess let me back up and just say that I like when I provide e-learning material, my goal is always 10x value.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, it may be a free course, but if it were a paid course, let's say I did a complete how to become a WordPress web design agency, like where to start, how to get started, how to get your first clients.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to charge $100 for that, I would hope that after a year and implementing, taking action on that, that person would then not only get their money's back, but add another $1,000 in value to their life. And really 100x is where you want to get to. Like,
right.
I could teach somebody for $100 or free how to start that kind of business,
right.
And it's very doable for them to make $10,000 in their first year off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's just the power of like changing lives and really using that lever point of digital content and asynchronous communication and global reach to just impact a lot of people's lives. And as long as you're zeroed in on creating that 10x value, you just can't go wrong.
Right. I love that. And I mean, what does that look like? Like, what are some of these emerging markets that you've alluded to here?
Well, let me give you an interesting example outside of e-learning and then bring it back.
Cool.
So if we look at somewhere like Southeast Asia, for example, in a lot of ways, the internet kind of came really fast into and also the standard of living and the economies are growing in such a way that it kind of skipped something that happened in the developed world where you have the desktop computer and the laptop computer going straight to like smartphones and mobile web from anywhere in any conditions as long as there's a signal. It's really quite amazing. And what's happening as the population of the world booms, and we're also experiencing this like constriction in the economy. It's getting more challenging for people to move, through their career and create value. Essentially, what's happening is we're moving out of the knowledge and information economy into something a little bigger about. I don't even know if I have a name for it. I mean, I would call it the integrated economy, where you have to leverage knowledge and information. You have to leverage industry. You have to leverage, sustainability, agriculture, food systems, all these things. The internet is like this giant lever that not only gives people a lot of opportunity, it can also make it more challenging to, build out a career and build value in the world, and not just employers have less and less of an ability to stick people in a job without having really maximum efficiency going on. And in order to do that, if you're looking for a career, you have to be very skilled. And now you can pluck those skills from the web from these e-learning platforms.
Yeah.
And I wanted to circle back to a point you made earlier about all this content out there. If you get really interested in a specific niche, you can find it. But one of the biggest values of an e-learning platform, and a common objection we hear, is that, like, why would anybody buy my course? They can find all this information scattered across the internet for free, which in some cases may be true. In some cases it won't be true. But if they can find it everywhere, that value of curation, of bringing together and synthesizing that knowledge into a complete package, is really valuable. So I think it's important to get outside the mindset that I have to be completely original. I would say it's more important to be a better curator and organizer and synthesizer than to actually be an inventor or somebody with a unique idea. I
don't disagree with that at all, because, a good example was when I was learning how to do podcasting, I joined John Lee Dumas's Podcaster's Paradise. And all that information is available out there. I mean, he's telling you how to set up Blueberry PowerPress. He's telling you how to set up the RSS feeds. But, you know, in reality, it's hard to know which is legit and what's not. Obviously, John Lee knows, you know, JLD knows that that what he's doing. I mean, anyone who's cranking out a podcast a day, that guy has got some systems in place, right? Just in his, you know, I'm not even a huge fan of his podcast, to be honest with you, but I have mad respect for someone who can create that sort of content at that pace. And joining his course was like $2,000. I mean, it wasn't cheap at all. And like I said, I got through it and I was like, oh, I probably could have found all this out there. But there's two things that happened. One, knowing that I was working with someone legit. And two, just having the time savings of not having to go and vet all these different ways of doing things. And then three, it was the community behind it. And being able to ask questions and say, okay, well, I want to use SoundCloud because it's kind of an emerging podcasting media platform. Has anyone else had the experience? I could ask him. I could ask his assistants and get feedback. All of that people are willing to pay for, you know, and I think that there's a lot of opportunities there for that. Chris, you talked a little bit in the pre-interview about the impact that creating courses and sharing information online has on the course creator. That's something I think we don't often think about or talk about, but you know, you're a course creator. What are some of the things that have happened to you, intrinsically and maybe otherwise, that you can share?
Well, it's really changed my life in the terms of I work from home. I have 2 little daughters. I get to be around them. I get to set my own schedule, and that's for 2 things. I've created courses that help promote on autopilot the types of web development and consulting I do. And so that's one thing. Like, I don't have to go out and market or go places to work. The other thing is that I've created significant income streams from my premium or paid courses, and also had a lot of fun. It's given me a way to connect with my wife, who's more of the organic gardening expert, and I'm more of the technology, the marketing expert. When you put us together, we create this powerful course, so it's been great for our relationship.
That's cool.
And just to give you another example, sometimes when you come across people who have successful eLearning or WordPress LMS platforms, they can seem a little bit lucky or like an overnight success. But I want to dial it back and actually use John Lee Dumas as an example. I remember when he first came on the scene, and I was like, who is this guy? And now he has within a year, I think, he got to a 6-figure business just by doing podcasting, talking about what he loves, helping people. A podcast is not a traditional LMS type of platform, but it's definitely an educational tool for sharing value and that sort of thing. But you just have to start.
Yeah.
When I first started, it's all about taking that leap, or as we like to say, pull the trigger and ride the bullet. So my very first course was me just getting super excited about online courses because I was understanding the internet and WordPress and the opportunity with online courses. But at first, you just have to create something. So what I did is I went to the grocery store. I bought a dozen eggs, a bunch of cheese, some vegetables, and I created my very first course. Was just a fun thing that I didn't care if anybody bought. And lo and behold, people started buying it. And it was a course about how to make the perfect omelet. So I did 6 omelet recipes. I challenged myself to launch it in one day. So I turned on a video camera, and I went through the cooking process of making omelets. And that's where I started. And now, you know, I have multiple teachers, like international bestsellers in the organic gardening and permaculture niche on my LMS platform teaching. My wife teaches a course on that platform, but it all started with me and an idea, wanting to help people cook better omelets, and just taking that leap of faith of like, I'm going to figure out this online courses thing. And that's why with the LifterLMS plugin, I wanted to build the tool that I wish I had access to back then.
Yeah.
To get started and get started fast, quickly, and get to revenue and changing lives as quickly as possible.
That's amazing, man. I love it because you've been in the trenches for a long, long time prior to creating this plugin with us, and that just it pumps me up, because it's not everything that we're building is based in your experience and your experience of working with others, as well as our experience in CodeBOX about learning how to engage people well and market to them well. And it's just this collaboration that's backing up this plugin that, and the name itself, Lifter, we want to elevate, we want to lift things up, bring it to the next level. So people can learn about this plugin at LifterLMS.com. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me directly at Joshua at LMScast.com. There's too many URLs, man. And then Chris at LMScast.com too. Chris, any final thoughts for people who are looking to make an impact in the world with education?
Yeah, I would just say this tool is the Lifter LMS plugin is like a pickaxe that you can use in the gold rush of going to create impact or generate revenue, whatever your goals are in the world. It's a powerful tool that you can use. It can really always stay focused on the impact and the value you're creating in the lives of others, and you can't lose. And then it's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a better teacher. You're going to have fun mastering your skill. And also just there's like this hidden benefit that comes on in the sense that, Joshua, you and I are together on this call because our relationship in a circuitous way came from me putting out WordPress content and getting into this LMS space. So
True.
Once those relationships start to fractal out, it's amazing who you can connect with. So that's my closing thought, and I would just sum it up with the quote I already mentioned, and that's just it's time to pull the trigger and ride the bullet.
Yep, it's time to get going. All right, well, until next episode, we'll talk to everyone then.